So it's still Friday, and this video is going to come fairly quickly after the first one because the first one took me forever to upload. Even though I was at the hospital quite early this morning, I had trouble uploading it because there was not very good internet coverage in the hospital. So after I posted the last update, I was allowed to go in and see Paul. The reason they kept me waiting was because before that he was still on the ventilator and pretty uncomfortable, and I had only really just woken up out of his anaesthetic. So I think, reading between the lines, I think they just wanted to tidy him up a bit before I got there. Having said that, it was a little bit confronting walking in to see a lot of tubes hanging off him. He was in quite a lot of pain. He had only just had the breathing tube removed, so his voice was all sexy and gravelly, as he pointed out. I sat with him for a few hours actually, and the overriding thing he kept saying was he was still in pain. He's had an awful lot of fentanyl, and whilst that is taking the edge off, it's not really making him that comfortable. So they then gave him some ketamine with a warning that it might make him feel a bit loopy, which is in fact what happened. He became more coherent as the morning progressed, and I will add a little video at the end of this, but please keep in mind this was fairly early in the visit and he's very groggy. But ultimately they're taking very good care of him. So the surgery that he's had is the CRS plus the HIPEC, which is the chemo that they put in the abdominal cavity while you're on the operating table. The next part that he has to complete is the EPIC. And EPIC is pretty much the same thing. It's the chemo inside the peritoneal cavity. The difference between HIPEC and EPIC is that the HIPEC chemo solution is heated to about 40 degrees, and the reading that I've done tells me that that is because cancer cells don't tolerate heat very well. The EPIC is done at normal room temperature, and it's done every day for the next 5 days, so long as he can tolerate that, which there's no reason to expect that he won't tolerate that. What else? They can't remember. They did take his spleen and his gallbladder, which I think I've already mentioned in the previous video. There's a little bit of conjecture about whether they took a little bit of his stomach as well. The nurse was reading the doctor's handwritten notes, which were a little bit difficult to read, so she's going to check the typed version and come back to us. But they also took a bit of his intestine and colon. So he's, aside from the pain, which he's uncomfortable, and he is asking for more drugs. The pain team in there are pretty good, like they're listening to what he's saying, and I think they're also going to give him a slow release patch as well, because his baseline pain medication before he even went in was at a certain level, and of course they've removed all that for the operation. So I think whilst they're treating the acute pain, he's got one of those things where you self-dose. They're talking about putting a patch on just to bring him back up to that baseline level that he had before he went in, and hopefully that will help. They also did something which was really interesting today, which was a leak test. So when they do the EPIC treatment, as I said, they fill up your abdomen with the chemo. But because he's had so many holes punctured in his abdomen recently, including the drain that he had just before he went into surgery, they needed to do a test to make sure that when they fill him up with this cytotoxic liquid that he doesn't leak. So what they do is they pump about 1 litre of just saline into his abdomen, and then they roll him over and jiggle him around a little bit and manhandle him to see if any leaks happen. So I was asked to leave the room for that because he is technically cytotoxic, even though it was only saline solution. So, excuse me. So there was a bit of moaning and groaning from inside, but it seemed to go relatively smoothly and relatively quickly. And I'm pleased to report that he did not spring a leak. So I don't know if they're going to do the proper EPIC treatment this afternoon or whether they'll do that tomorrow morning, but I'll go over again in a little while and just check in and see how he's going. I have got some photos to share. Warning, it is a little bit graphic. It's not terrible, but I don't think, but it depends how squeamish you are. I do have his permission to share these. So yeah, stay tuned for the next one. So, how's that ice feeling in your mouth?
That is so comforting. Yeah.
And what about your racing, what do you call it?
Racing snake. The racing snake actually.
What is a racing snake? Point to it.
It's like, well, it's that, but it's, it's when you run and you dance and get your wriggle on.
Can you give a thumbs up? Oh, good effort.